Hello everybody, welcome back to Screen Stars. I'm here today to review the horror sequel, Grave Encounters 2. Now, you may or you may not know that recently I have just watched the first Grave Encounters found footage horror film for the first time. And I absolutely loved it, and the review's on the channel if you want to watch it. So I was very keen to see the second one, Grave Encounters 2. And it's fairly easy to get hold of. In fact, I got it the following day from my local DVD store, and I have watched it now. And what are my thoughts on Grave Encounters 2? Is it a worthy sequel to the first one? Yes, generally I would say it is. However, I don't think it comes without its faults, because it does have its fair share of faults, this movie. It isn't a brilliant sequel, but I think what the main issue with this movie is the first 30 minutes. It's the characters and the first 30 minutes of this movie, and the last 5-10 minutes, I suppose, maybe 5 minutes. And this time round it goes down the meta route, and we are introduced to a film student. Right at the beginning, it lets you know that about Grave Encounters, and it shows clips of YouTube reviewers, reviewing the movie and giving their thoughts on it. And then we meet the film student who did the same thing. He did his own review of it on YouTube, and he becomes obsessed with this movie. He initially isn't a fan of the movie, and then he starts getting like these emails from Death Awaits, which is your first warning sign there. If I was getting emails from someone called Death Awaits, or messages on my YouTube reviews from someone called Death Awaits, I'm not sure I'd be responding to them. But there you go. It's a horror movie, I guess. So he gets these messages from Death Awaits, that basically hints and lets him know that it's all real. The first film, Grave Encounters, was all real. He becomes obsessed. He loses interest in the film he's making, and he wants to investigate this. He does a number of things. He goes and finds the producer from the first film, confronts him, gets him on like a secret camera to expose everything in regards to the movie. He's still not happy that he's got enough proof, and he decides to head down to this asylum to do exactly what they did in the first film. They get there, they get inside, and basically it's the Grave Encounters all over again. Similar sort of things happen with some variations. They throw in like Ouija boards this time round. They're trying up the scares, they're trying up the visuals, and all of the above. The kind of ticking exercises you'd expect on a sequel. Now, I don't mean to sound harsh there, because I didn't dislike this movie. I did have some fun with it, I'll be honest. I really did. But I think they made some terrible mistakes with this movie. Like I said, the first 30 minutes were awful. You get introduced to this series of characters, and especially the main character, and none of them are likeable at all. They don't give you anything to relate to with these characters. And they don't help matters. Like I say, the first 30 minutes is all the build up to when they get to the asylum, and it almost kills the movie. And his little investigation when he goes to find the actor who played Lance in the first film. They go and find his mum, and it's a pointless scene really. And like I say, he goes and sees the producer from the first film, and it doesn't make sense for two reasons for me. If he wants to prove it's real, the first film, he basically gets the producer of the first film to admit that it's all real on a secret camera, but that's not enough for him. So he decides to go to this asylum to prove it's real. But for me, if I genuinely thought somewhere was haunted and dangerous and I could likely lose my life, I wouldn't be going there with a film crew to try and prove it. It's the last place I'd be going. I just wouldn't be doing it. So if he's so convinced that it's real, why would he go there? Didn't make sense to me. But getting all the niggles out of the way once they get in the building and once the scares start, thankfully this film comes alive a bit. The scares do hit home. The majority of them are reasonably well earned. Some of them are a bit corny, but and a bit forgettable. There's a surprise in the movie in regards to how it ties the loose ends up from the first movie, and I don't want to say anything because you've never seen the movie. I don't want to give you any spoilers, but there's another character appears in the movie that you may or may not be expecting, and it all goes a bit Evil Dead at the end, if you like portals opening up and secret Narnia doors, and it's almost like they ran out of ideas a little bit by the end. But forget about the first 30 minutes because I thought they were terrible. The characters, they made some terrible choices with the characters they wanted to put in this movie, because I didn't like any of them. I didn't relate to any of them. Not really. They were all pretty dislikable. And the last 5 or 10 minutes, you've got a decent horror movie here that I think can hold its head up high compared to the first one, while certainly paling in comparison to the first one. So yeah, I enjoyed this one. I had some fun with it. I do think it's a fairly decent, worthy sequel. I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10, and I believe I gave Grave Encounters 8 out of 10. Loved that one. This one does feel a little bit diluted. It does feel like a little bit of what we've seen before, and they make a few too many missteps for me, but it is certainly worth seeing if you have never seen Grave Encounters 2.